and you've got differential treatment depending on who's a bigger partner, who's a small partner. So I don't think that issue is too serious anymore. What happens to industry? Everyone knows something will happen, but time for adjustment is always there. Now the other question is about the kinds of things that Sridharan talked about. There's this issue, peace for trade or trade for peace. Now we've tried the first one for a long time. It's not working. So what a lot of us say is, let's try the second one. Let's try trade for peace. Why does it work? Because trade for peace creates the vested economic interests, which frankly last much longer and are much more effective than political interests. So let's maybe create vested interests on both sides who would like to keep the trade going. Now, more important is, till you begin this business of exchange of commodities, you never can move on to other things which are part of a whole trade issue. Like, for example, I thought energy is very important. The one issue came in the last session. India has been telling Bangladesh for a long time, we cannot have a trade balance with you. Too small. All you make is textiles. Even if you send all your textiles to India, we still can't have a trade balance. So the only way we could have a trade balance is let's translate into buying energy from you. They have a lot of gas, and we have a shortage of gas. At least we should have a shortage of natural gas. We have plenty of other gas floating around the country, but natural gas we have a shortage of. So we've been trying to say that this could bridge the trade deficit in more ways than one. And I think that's one of the reasons why Bangladesh has been going in for this. So you have to move on from goods to energy to services, but the starting point is always goods trade, because it creates more vested economic interest who want the trade to go. Now, having talked about trade, in many sessions you've seen the issue, most important is that of trade logistics. And we had occasion to see the trade logistics, border trade. I'm surprised it happens at all. The customs authorities on the Indian side reminded me of Indian customs 1970s. Short of taking your pants off, you open everything else. I have never seen such archaic procedures ever in my life. Sujata is not here. I think we should tell her again what's happening. Maybe she doesn't know. She doesn't take that route. But it's the most horrendous. Hats off to, it's reminding me of small scale industrialists. How they trade in this country like India with the kind of government control we have is amazing. So they must be really wanting to make money. That's why they do it. So small traders must be really wanting to trade to Pakistan. That's why they go through the route. So trade logistics, India is now part of the Trade Facilitation Agreement. So is Pakistan. We both signed the agreement at Bali. And we can actually use the multilateral route to ensure that a lot of this trade facilitation takes place. So that's one. Last, let me end with my own view. I think to India, the issue of Pakistan is political, not economic. For us, the political gains are more important than the economic gains. You're not going to find, let's say in pharma, Indian pharma producers falling over themselves to trade with Pakistan. They already got the world. Why would they worry about a 2 billion market? They've got a 100 billion world market. It's not going to happen. So I think this fear that Indian traders are going to overtake Pakistan is not there. But to take an example, it is, if you look at the history of how the Indian-Sri Lanka trade accord took place, there was huge political opposition in India. The Chief Minister of State actually came and told the Prime Minister, don't do this. Till he was told, sorry, we're going to have these costs, but they are smaller than the gains we expect to make. And we will think of some way of compensating you. So I think on the Indian side, the economic issues are more, you do it, not doing it, therefore we are not doing it issues. So I think I like this idea. Suppose someone was to do something, you'll have to do. And who's going to do it? I think it'll have to be Pakistan, not because I'm an Indian, I'm an academic by the way, but because Pakistan has more to gain from trade than India has. India does not have much to gain in terms of economics to great trade with Pakistan, because we're already trading, it's a very small number. Pakistan has to gain, and Pakistan actually can put a lot more pressure on India through these unilateral measures. Not that I'm saying they will happen, but it's a great idea. And therefore, I believe that at some point of time, trade will have to take the path of least resistance, which I think is economics. And last is this issue of media. Someone talked about media in one of the sessions. Frankly, I agree with what one of the people said. Actually, no news is good news. Surprisingly, you talk about conflicts and resolution through trade. Trade won't happen because of conflict. The Indian authorities, look at the papers, are more concerned about China than they are about Pakistan, actually. But yet, look at it. India's largest trade partner is China. Out of a trade deficit of, say, 60 to 80, maybe $80 billion, $40 billion is only China. The whole North is, the whole India is worried about electronic trading and trading of machinery, and yet you can't do anything, you can't protect, we do some anti-dumping, but that also is limited time. Well, we do a lot of anti-dumping against China, but that's also limited, got to do with WTO and the China accession treaty. But at the end of it, what happens is, the power manufacturers say, if you stop Pakistan, if you stop import of equipment from China, power prices are going to go up. And therefore everyone backs off, says, no, let's not do this. Let's find some other persuasive ways of telling the Chinese and be more transparent. So trade does create a constituency which prevents a lot of other conflicts. And I do think it works extremely well in the case of India, China. Maybe that's a test case. Thank you. Over to you, Nisha.
Mr. Speaker.
This is actually quite a metaphor for the World Bank. Particularly in the regional trade.
Not only did I miss the speaker, I missed the speaker from the World Bank with the double jeopardy. So, Salman, please summarize.
No, I don't take it personally at all.
But you know, he's in there. He's in your presentation and your presentation. Oh, it is the analytical support that he gives.
No, I do think it's a case where we have to keep our fingerprints sort of absent anyway. So I have no problem with this at all. I just did want, I'm an add-on to the panel. So Manoj, please don't feel embarrassed.
The FS is not here, so you might as well.
Okay, I'll be the FS. You're right. No, I just want to make a couple of points. I think the challenge, obviously, for us is how to get India to rise up to its leadership role in many ways. Recognizing all the things which have been said is that in many ways India is playing at a global stage, is playing with China, is playing in a variety of other places. So what's in it for India to actually to take interest in this? And I think this is something which many of you would be much better placed to answer. But there are certain, since we've looked at neighbors through the security lens in a way has been predominant, and I think Sridharan also made that case, I would just say that maybe there are some insecurities which are mounting, which actually outsize some of the traditional security things about the kinds of threats we've dealt with Pakistan or with other countries. And I know there are a couple. Certainly what happens in Afghanistan is going to spill over. Whether it gets contained within Pakistan, whether it spills further over, I think is a case which we have to, and therefore cooperating around the stabilization of Afghanistan, or at least having a fighting chance to stabilize Afghanistan, will probably require collaboration between India and Pakistan. Does that then result in other normalization is a question. Climate change, particularly on water-induced catastrophes, disasters, how one both prepares for them, how one responds to them, is also, that does not respect borders, regardless how much security you put at the border, it will not respect it. So how do we find even a bigger Leviathan around which to organize this collaboration and subsume trade and investment and the things of value supply chains in this much broader rubric? As we go down the security discussion, these are both the food security. Are there collaborative ways of managing the growth in population, agricultural productivity, the nutrition problem? The South Asia has got the worst nutrition problems, much worse than their levels of wealth or poverty should result in. How do we create a healthier populace? Are there food security, nutrition security areas of collaboration? Energy, again, energy has a security word linked to it. So can we have energy security and link that? And all of these are still in different dimensions of security. I don't know how political economy thinkers, Sridharan and all would think about. How does one respect security, but recognize that times have changed and there are much greater things which we need to collaborate around? And then we can go down, we can get into trade, investment, tourism, health tourism, a variety of other kinds of things. So I would just wonder whether we need to just reframe the engagement and see how we get trade and investment and other things happening. And finally, I just like, from the World Bank's point of view, much of the resonance we felt in our role in this is around creating the energy markets. Other people have mentioned that these are large investments, they could be stranded, which is why, again, concessional financing and large amounts of it may reduce the apprehension that some of these things, particularly on transmission lines, other things, will not result in large debts being serviced by the next generation. But there may be a risk, recognizing that the upside is quite significant if they can be made to work. Road connectivity, others have said. How can we have South Asian transport companies where you don't have to transship at everywhere? This is a South Asian company, it's not a Pakistani company, not an Indian company, it's nothing. It's just allowed to roll stock all the way through, wherever it goes. Trade and investment, those are the three areas which we certainly have a mandate and a growing mandate from many of the countries to actually engage in. Much less so on the water side is to at least build the analytical base so that we can make use of much more scientific modeling, other techniques, so that when people talk about a river basin, they're speaking about the same river basin, rather than based on data which is either state secrets or old or inadequate. So I think there are many things of just getting much more science into the sentiment, and I hope we can be part of this partnership in recognizing it. One is how do we get the analysis in, but the other critical part is who are the messengers, who are the advocates, how do we build the base? And these are areas we're looking for any partnership. We already have one with ICRIA, we're working with others, and I'll close with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we'll just wait for another 5 minutes, but if you stay in the rooms, that would be very nice, because otherwise it's difficult to get everybody back. We weren't planning to have questions. Okay, questions? Comments? Yeah. Yeah.
Two comments. One on Dr. Ijaz Nabi's comment. I fully agree with him on these two things, that for Pakistan, in order to, they need to spread the benefits, and it should not be just for Lahore, and it should be Quetta, it should be Peshawar, and for that purpose they need to open up transit, and that's something has been ignored. The other point I think he mentioned is that this particular bilateral trade is very beneficial for SMEs, and that's another angle. We are so far concentrating on the bigger guys, and that's where, and there I agree with you. But I have some problem with Dr. Kazmi's presentation. I mean, all these things, if we were thinking the same arguments for China, we would never trade with China. We have huge, in fact, we would not trade with many countries around the world, except maybe Afghanistan and some NATO countries. Otherwise, all the time we have trade deficit. I don't also agree with your Article 24, but I'm not going to get him because we've moved on. It's much gone. And my final point is about Nisha and Mr. Salman. Very right. It's time now to look beyond bilateral. How to leverage it globally or regionally. Thank you.
You know, I've heard references to bilateral trade balance in a number of presentations, and I think one should keep things clear. It doesn't matter what happens to bilateral trade balance if your overall trade balance improves. That's the guiding principle on maintaining your exchange rate. It's not what happens vis-a-vis the Indian rupee, but what happens vis-a-vis the dollar that really matters. That's all I wanted to say.
The FS is here, so we'll close the session. Thank you all, and we'll wait to hear what she has to say.
I'm absolutely delighted that the Foreign Secretary is here and